lots of questions right now about who is going to be the vice presidential pick on the ticket for, of course, Donald Trump. And there's some talk about this guy.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right.
Well, kind of right. Anyway, Tucker Carlson is now being rumored to be the vice presidential pick of Donald Trump. Now, this is coming to us courtesy of the New York Times. There's a reporter over there, very, very well connected, Maggie Haberman, and Maggie seems to think that he's in the running. I wouldn't doubt that necessarily, not one single bit. I think it's just sort of a question of whether Tucker would really want that. He would certainly, I think, galvanize a lot of people, excite a lot of people, but he's going to do that anyway, right? Regardless of whether he's on the ticket or not. Would he want that? I don't know. I think that Tucker's a smart, very smart guy, and he probably understands the downside that goes with being in politics, and perhaps he's not really into that aspect of it, but he's smart, and, well, they were teasing this one, guys. They were teasing this.
How strong that team is. Making his way into the building. One of the bigger mixed martial arts fans I know, President Donald Trump, taking his octagon side seat for UFC 295. We got two title fights coming up at UFC 295 here in a matter of moments, live from Madison Square Garden. And President Trump will be here to witness all of it. Four of the very best fighters in the world set to take their cracks at light heavyweight and interim heavyweight gold, respectively. We move over to pay-per-view shortly. Thank you all for being here for the prelim coverage. But as you know, best is yet to come. Main card for UFC 295.
Okay, so that was like the other night. They went to fight night together at Madison Square Garden, and the crowd went wild. Kid Rock was there. Dana White was there. And Tucker Carlson was there. So everybody starts saying, okay, like, could this be real? So Maggie Haberman, she went on to this podcast, and I'm going to quote directly from her. So she said, in terms of, she was being asked, Tucker Carlson as vice president, is that a real thing that you're hearing about a possibility, or is that just being floated by maybe people around Tucker? And she replied, quote, it's a real thing that I am hearing as a possibility. The likelihood of it, I don't know. She continues on saying, I think there will be a pretty professionalized vetting process, honestly. I know that that might sound unbelievable based on what we've seen from Trump historically, but Trump's current political team is the best. Ooh, interesting that she would say that. The best, at least as a non-incumbent, that he's had, and there's just a different level of control. I don't think the Tucker thing is not real, she added, saying that, you know, there could be some potential pitfalls for Trump should he choose Tucker Carlson, but that, quote, I think the risk with Tucker Carlson and Trump is that Tucker Carlson is a very big star in his own right, and I'm not sure how Trump would contend with that. Spot on, Maggie. This is what I told you guys a while back, right? Remember I said when I first heard Mike Pence's name being floated for vice president, this was back in 2015, 2016, I was like, bingo, that's your guy. That's your guy because, one, he's not as tall. Two, I mean, he's smart, by the way. You know, whatever you think about Mike Pence, and actually he said some really stupid things, so maybe he's not that smart. I mean, the best was, you know, Tucker's takedown of him when Mike Pence sat there and said that it wasn't his concern, basically how Americans were doing, that he was so focused on Ukraine, he wasn't concerned about Americans. Okay, so I take it back. He's not so smart. He's not so smart, but that was actually part of the beauty of him as a vice presidential candidate with Donald Trump, because he would kind of do as he's told. He'd kind of just, you know, play the game. He would sit there, stand there, look pretty. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he just didn't suck all the oxygen out of the room the way Trump did. It's one of the reasons why I know you guys love Carrie Lake, and she's phenomenal and huge personality and really commands the stage and isn't taking any BS from anybody. But at the same time, Carrie sucks a lot of oxygen out of the room, right? In a way that Mike Pence never did. And so then you keep going through the list. I mean, some of you really like Noem, the governor out in North Dakota. And I think that that's for sure a possible possible contender. I mean, I think that she's a woman. She's extremely attractive. She is bright, but she's not going to commandeer the stage. So I think Maggie's right. I think when she said the risk with Tucker Carlson and Trump is that Tucker's a very, very big star in his own right. And Trump would have to contend with that. And that indeed is quite true. Here's this interview that they did. Remember this one, guys? This was the thing that outrated Fox News's GOP debate. I mean, like, the debate numbers like didn't even come close to what Tucker and Trump did on Twitter, which is probably what has some people thinking in the Trump camp. I actually don't think that this is just being floated by Tucker's camp. I really don't. I actually think, Trump is very, very keen on winning. And he might have looked at this and said, wow, those ratings, those are something else. And of course, the subject matter was very interesting. It was a very interesting conversation. They talked about Biden on the beach, stuff like that. But then there was this.
The 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out, it's an escalation, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So what's next after, try to put you in prison for the rest of your life? That's not working. So, don't they have to kill you now?
I think the people of our country don't get enough credit for how smart they are. And I'm not sure I would have said this 10 years ago.
He segued nicely.
But they get it. They really get it. When somebody gets indicted, your poll numbers go down. When somebody gets indicted, you announce, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be leaving to spend time with my family and to fight for the rest of my life on this stuff. But you're out of politics. I got indicted 4 times. All trivia, nonsense.
Look, you know what? I think it would be fascinating to see those guys together. I do think Tucker's extremely smart. And actually, he'd probably do the country a lot of good because he comes at things differently. He's got the sort of raw intelligence, if you would, to kind of see through and navigate this. He also kind of knows, being media savvy, where the pitfalls are. And he's willing to embrace them, much like Trump is.